Hola, buenos días.
Buenas tardes, buenas noches.
This is Barb.
And this is Estela.
And welcome to
Cafecito
and Crime. So, today's episode is going to be brought to you by Estela. But anyway, yesterday we went to Miss Nicole's wedding. We had a really good time. Shout out to Miss Nicole. I know she listened. So we appreciate your support. And you looked beautiful last night. And I hope that you guys have a wonderful, long-lasting lifetime of love.
And a happy trip.
Happy trip.
To your honeymoon.
To your honeymoon, yeah. She looked gorgeous. We had a good time.
It was fun.
It was really fun, yeah. But anyway, so what do you got for us today, Sesta?
Okay, so for today's episode...
Are we still in the theme of the Halloween thing?
Yeah, because it doesn't stop just midway through October.
Oh, okay.
Just saying.
Just saying.
Did you thought that it was going to stop midway through October?
No, pero pues es que a lo mejor dije you forgot or something, you know?
Me? Forget?
This girl has receipts. Like, this girl will keep receipts. Like, a esta no le diga nada porque si no, en 3 años te va a decir, ¿te acuerdas cuando me dijiste esto y esto? And I'm like,
don't lie.
No.
No, okay, I'll remind you. I'm going to remind you right now.
Oh, my God. But anyway, what we got?
So for today's case, we're going to Ohio. I think we were already in Ohio not that long ago. I think with the Michelle Martinko case, if I'm not mistaken.
I think, yeah, we were
there.
In Ohio.
I think so.
Oh my God, I just realized something. Sorry. I just realized I'm not wearing my necklace and I'm always like, it's like a anxiety thing. I always grab my necklace and I'm not wearing it. I'm like, where's my necklace? Anyway.
Well, it wasn't that important because now you were not taking it off.
No, es que I took it off because it didn't match my fit.
So we're going to Oak Harbor, to be exact.
Okay.
And the fun, random, interesting fact about Oak Harbor is that while the town is fairly small, like 2,800 population small.
Wow. Yeah.
It brings in about thousands of people, over 25,000 people, each year for its Apple Festival.
Apples. Mm-hmm. Yes, apples.
All the activities are held downtown, obviously. I mean, and they're literally just located within 2 blocks of each other. Es donde pasa todo.
So, entonces está el town y allí mismo es donde hacen el Festival de las Manzanas?
Sí, downtown.
Downtown.
Sí.
Pero no está muy grande.
No. And then...
It's 2 blocks. Okay.
Wait. It sounds like a good time. I feel like all festivals sound like a time. Like these type of festivals, like fall festivals and stuff.
Remember in one of the cases we spoke about an Italian festival too?
Yes. Like, I was like, comida. Nom.
Cheese. Yeah. Uh-huh.
So they have a royalty court that gets crowned. So you can watch that.
Bro, I want to be the royal manzana.
I don't know if it's a royal manzana, but it's just like a court, you know, like
that would be cool though.
Yeah. And then they also have like a cute baby contest.
Stop.
And they have a parade. They have cornhole tournaments.
Not the tournaments.
They have baking contests. They have car shows.
Oh my God, imagine cuántas cosas puedes hacer con manzanas.
I know,
de
a
manzana,
lot.
Pay
They
de
have
manzana.
Mechanical rides, tienen. They have 5K runs. And then they also have a 1-mile run for kids.
Yeah,
just like a little
that
one.
Is so cute.
They have performances and like a shit ton of vendors.
That is so cool.
And
it's like a fair.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is so awesome.
But it sounds like a really good time.
Dude, like, me imagino yo que como todas las personas que viven alrededor, like in the area, they could go and probably sell their stuff or they might wait for it. That's so cool.
Yeah. It sounds like I kind of want to go, I'm not going to lie.
Sounds like a good time.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Vamos.
Let's go. Add it to the list.
Add it to the list of shit we're not going to do. We say we are.
Mm-hmm. That too. So, as I literally just mentioned, the case takes place in Oak Harbor, which sounds like a small, quaint town, right? Like you would think Oak Harbor is just, they have a little...
Scenic.
Yes.
Scenic.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, exactly.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And it's actually located, I think it's located 25 miles southeast of Toledo.
Guys.
You know Toledo, right?
Toledo, okay.
Ohio?
Oh, yeah. Sure. I'm about to take the first sip of my coffee of the morning.
Sip it.
Because, this is the best time of the night.
The whole day.
Yeah.
There it is.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so Oak Harbor has easy access to Lake Erie, and which actually helps draw in tourists during the summer months and such. So just like the Apple Festival, it's a very touristy town, which is, what happens. Everybody knows everybody's business for the most part in small towns like these,
and in big families too.
That can kind of seem like they're a small town.
Yes, they could kind of be. Yeah, straight up. Yeah, straight up. Mm-hmm.
So everyone knew the Liske family in Oak Harbor. And the Liske family was a blended one, and it consisted of 5 members. So we'll begin with Sue. So Susan M. Liske, but that's her married name. Her maiden name was Morse. Was born on January 30th. I put 1064 instead of 1964. I don't think she's that old.
Wow. That's like before Christ.
She was born on January 30th of 1964 to parents Benny and Edna Morse. So the Morse family was very well known in Oak Harbor, very social family. Everyone had nothing but good things to say about the Morse family. So Susan, she got married to Gary Griffin, whom she had 2 kids with, Derek and Devon. And then after some times, they ended up separating. They got divorced. And then she met and married William Liske, who went by Bill in 2001. Okay, so that's
There's a lot of Williams that go by Bill, huh?
Yeah, I think that's the nickname for people.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
I didn't know that either.
No, until one time I saw one of our patients at one of the clinics I worked at, and his name was William, and he was like, "My name is Bill," and I'm like, "No, your name is William." Like straight
Willie,
up, I was
maybe
like,
Willie for short.
Will, Willie or something like that. But like Bill, like I was like, oh, okay. I mean, I don't know how, but
it happened.
Sure.
Whatever you say, sir.
Yep. I'll call you whatever you want me to call you.
So William E. Liske Jr. was born on May 11th of 1957 in Toledo, Ohio, to parents William Liske Sr. and Shirley Liske. He actually had a son from a previous relationship, Bill. His name was also William.
I'm telling you.
William J. Liske. So he was the third, if we want to put it honestly. But since they would call him BJ. You know, because William Bill, and then his middle name started with the J, so just BJ. So the dad was Bill Sr., and then his dad was Bill.
Ya estoy bien confundida. Bien confundida. Ya me mandas a la chingada. Straight up.
So Bill, he was actually a U.S. Air Force veteran. Mm-hmm. And he enjoyed the outdoors. He liked going hunting, fishing. He'd garden. So he shared that in common with Sue. So they both like to do that. And they actually had like a hunting cabin a couple of hours away that they'd like to visit during hunting season. And Bill was described by people in his life as a very hardworking man, very down to earth. Everyone, again.
Igual que yo. He's just like me.
Everybody had only good things to say about him.
Igual que yo.
Sí.
Wow. Somos idénticos.
Twin flames.
Twin flames. Ajá, igualitos. Somos los mismos.
So now we're in 2010, and this is a year that the events of today's case take place. And by this point...
Wow, 2010, that's like not too long ago.
13 years ago.
Oh.
That's a long ass time, bitch.
Bitch,
I feel like 2010 was like a year ago.
That was like, I was already married that time. So to me, like anything that for me is before Alex and after Alex.
Yeah. Married, like... Not like living together, but like married through church.
Yeah, we were already like married.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. But you guys started like living together way before that.
Yeah, way before that. No, pues es que hay que probar la ice cream antes de comprar la vaca.
La leche?
La leche or whatever.
El queso? So by this point, Bill and Sue had been together about 10 years or so. So Sue had 2 children, Derek Griffin, and at the time that the case took place, he was 23. He was known as he was very active in high school. He ran track and actually set records for the 4x2 relay. I don't know what that means, but he set a record for it.
That's a lot.
He also did karate. And
that's what's up.
He was actually a 2nd-degree black belt, and he fought in Italy for the U.S. Taekwondo team.
Wow, that's amazing.
I know.
Qué padre, dude.
A 2nd-degree black belt. I don't know what that means, but just no black belt.
Pero I know black belt.
But if you're like a 1st-degree black belt, I don't know, 2nd-degree.
Let's take a quick break. Persons of Interest is back, and it's bigger than ever.
That scream will echo in my head for many years.
Taser! 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 He's going to shoot! Oi! Shot fired! Shots fired, shots fired. Stay out, you got a gun on you!
He had the perfect aim.
I am absolutely stressed at that point. I have no idea where my officers are.
Persons of Interest available everywhere you get your podcasts.
Oh, dude, why my neighbor just came outside and he's wearing like a really light colored shirt and it looked like he wasn't wearing a shirt. I'm like, what is this guy doing naked outside?
It's because it's so pretty outside.
Oh my God. Guys, let me tell you a story about this bitch. I'm tired of her. Every day. Okay, so we're not used to pretty weather.
Fall weather.
So para nosotros el año pasado, este tiempo, it was still hot. Every single day since it's been pretty.
No cierto.
Yeah.
It started yesterday.
Okay, pues sí, every single day. It's
been one day.
Every 5 minutes. It's so pretty outside. Oh, it's so pretty. It feels so good outside. I'm like, ya cállate hocico. I'm outside too, bitch. Like, I know it's pretty outside.
But I'm going to tell you that it's so pretty outside.
Y luego me dijo, mañana te voy a decir más veces.
Because I know it's annoying her.
And so she's like, it's so pretty outside. I'm like, te callas.
As soon as I saw her, I was like, it's so pretty outside.
As soon as I walked downstairs, she's like, it's so pretty outside. I'm like, te callas like, you know what? I'm just going to trip you.
You won't.
No, I won't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, like I said, 2nd degree black belt, that was Derek.
I want to be a 2nd degree black belt.
And, he loves spending time on Lake Erie, and it was his favorite pastime.
First of all, anything that's called Lake Erie is already scary to me.
Yeah, of course. Well, I mean...
First of all, I don't like water, bodies of water. Me dan miedo.
Lakes are kind of gross.
Yeah, dude. Like, I don't know. Personally, no, don't be mad at us, guys. I'm sorry. I'm just scared of, like, I'm not scared of, like, spooky shit a lot. Pero, like, those kind of things como sharks and shit, I don't fuck with. I don't fuck with, like,
in a lake? Or you're just talking about large bodies of water?
Just in general. Yeah, like, no fucking lakes donde I got people's, like, cars that are in there, because I watch Adventures with Purpose. Mm-hmm. If y'all haven't watched that, y'all need to look at it. They're on YouTube.
Yeah.
But that's scary to me. So, anything that's called Lake Erie, ya me da miedo. Ya ahorita ya estoy espantada.
Yeah. Now, he was also known as somewhat of a quiet person, también. And
wow, for someone to do all that and then be quiet, that's crazy.
Why? You don't have to talk to anybody in karate, do you?
Well, yeah, because you talk to your coach and stuff.
Yeah, but you're not trying to mingle with your coach and shit. You're just going to talk about the weather and say, oh, it's so pretty outside.
Hija de tu madre. Okay.
Now, Devon, he was 16 at the time of today's case events. He was he was in high school, obviously, maybe like a sophomore, junior. He was big into swimming también. He was actually on the school's swim team, and he was described as just like very nice and polite. Now, BJ is el hijo de Bill, and he was 24. He didn't live at home with the Liske family, but he would visit the home and then spend the night about cada otra semana. And then BJ it was said that he was really close to his dad, Bill. They'd go up to the cabin, and when they'd hunt together. And the family as a whole, Los Cinco, they were known as a good family in town. So it was mostly 4 people regularly in the home. Like I just said, BJ no vivía ahí, but he would spend the weekend every other weekend. So Devon, like I said, he was still 16, so él se iba a quedarse con su papá on weekends.
Okay.
It wasn't very far where his dad lived. He lived about 20 minutes away in Northwood. And there was, I guess you could say there was 2 of them in and out kind of, right, for the most part. Now, the Liske family lived in a remote area. They had a very large property, 99 acres.
Oh, shit.
Of land located at 7054 Ohio 2.
That is a lot of fucking land.
And it was like a very rural part.
¿Y tenían cosas o nada más así, puro land? Oh, okay.
Now, on Saturday, October 30th, Bill and BJ had gone hunting at their cabin. They had a great time. They caught a deer y toda la cosa, and they brought it back home. Now, Bill...
tamales?
A lo mejor.
Mm-hmm.
Tamales de deer?
Mm-hmm.
I've never tasted them y no se me antojan.
No, I'm good, pero I know my dad has talked about tamales de deer and deer meat and deer this and that.
I've heard deer meat, but I just have never thought about deer meat.
And tamales.
Tamales.
I know your mom has made deer and birria.
I'll stick to pork.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
And, de queso de raja.
Yeah.
My favorites, pero that's about it.
Oh, we need to make tamales, dude.
It's the season. It's coming up.
Because it's so pretty outside.
It's not cold yet. That cold for tamales.
No, it's cold for tamales. It's cold enough.
It's anytime it's cold for tamales. Pues sí. Now, Bill invitó a su neighbor Mark, Grado. They had a really good relationship. They were cool and everything.
Yo creo le iba a dar del animal. Le iba a dar carne, because sometimes it's so big that you don't even know what to do with all that meat.
Right. So like I said, Bill he was close to Mark, but también BJ. BJ was close to Mark también. And they invited him over to hang out at their pole barn.
Mm?
And he told them, hey, I have a deer. Come over. Now, just a really sad, quick note. I didn't know what the fuck a pole barn was.
I'm waiting for you to explain what that is.
What's different? Is it different than any other barn? Like a barn? Was it a barn with the pole coming down the middle?
Could it be a barn that's also a bar? Like our last, wasn't it called the barn?
The barn door?
Could it be a bar?
Nope.
No. Okay.
This is what Google told me. It's just a barn with a specific type of structure. That is used for agricultural needs.
Ya ves?
I know, that's why I'm like, why? Obviously.
I was thinking they probably had like barn strippers in there and shit. Like you could use a pole.
Yeah. That's why I said I just thought it was like a barn with the pole coming down the middle, like a firefighters. But it wasn't that. So now you know, if you didn't know.
A specific type of structure. Okay.
Yes. Used for agricultural needs.
Okay.
So they were all hanging out at the barn. I don't know what they did with the deer. Like you said, a lo mejor se lo comieron. Le dio parte de la carne. But it was a good time. They were drinking, maybe having some beers, chilling, killing.
Killing, literally.
The deer had been
killed.
Yeah. So Mark later goes on to say that the get-together ended like right before midnight or right after. And then everybody just went home. On Sunday, October 31st, Devon made it back to the Liske family from La Casa de su Papá at around 10 in the morning. He had a church choir and he had to attend it because he was going to be in it. So cuando llegó a la casa, he went straight up to his room, changed, and left because I think it began at 10:30.
The service.
The church choir.
Yeah.
So the concert ended at 11 and Devon made it back home at around 11:15, por ahí. He went back upstairs, straight to his room, and started playing video games. 16-year-old shit. So right before 1 p.m., Lori, who was Devon's aunt y hermana de Bill, le habló a Devon por teléfono and asked him if he had heard from Derek or his mom, Sue. And that she was worried because Derek was supposed to go work a construction job con el esposo de ella, which he kind of did most times, and he hadn't shown up.
Uh-oh.
Which was not like him.
That's not good.
And she tried to reach him and she tried to reach Sue, but she couldn't reach either of them. Devon had been engrossed in his video games that he actually thought to himself that he hadn't realized how late it was. Y le dijo a Lori that he was going to go look for his mom and he was going to call her back. So he left his room.
I guess he didn't realize how late it was. Like, ya se estaba haciendo tarde y no se había dado cuenta dónde estaban. Like, he hadn't been able to see them,
Yeah. So he left his room, made his way downstairs, and thought how weird it was that the house was so quiet. So he walked into his parents' room. They were on the first floor and saw them on the bed. And he thought that it was odd that they were still sleeping since they were usually early birds. And it was already 1 p.m. So he went to his mom's side of the bed and he tried to wake her up, but she wasn't moving. He then pulled the comforter that was covering her off. Just saw blood everywhere.
Oh, shit. The fuck?
So he just se salió para afuera, salió corriendo, and he called...
¿Se espantó?
Pues sí, güey.
¿Te imaginas?
He called his Aunt Lori back and told her what he had seen. So Lori hauled ass from her house to the Liske home, and she called 911. And while on the line with the 911 operator, Lori was relaying to her everything that Devon le había dicho. And then Lori herself walked into the home and walked into, she was still on the line with the 911 operator and walked into Bill and Sue's bedroom. And you can hear it on the 911 call. And she's like, oh my God. She said, Bill's in the bed. She's like, and he's dead. She's like, he's got to be dead. So the 911 operator tells her, do not touch anything. So Lori just kind of like backs away and the police arrived like just within minutes after she had made the call. Cuando llegó the police and investigators, they began looking through the home and they noticed that everything seemed normal. Nothing looked out of place. Inside Bill and Sue's bedroom, the bed, cuando entrabas, like you can tell in the pictures if you want to look it up, I'm sure it'll pull up. The bed was up against the wall. So Bill was lying on the side closest to the door and he had visible wounds to his head. There were gunshot wounds. And on the other side of the bed, lying against the wall, Sue's legs were partially hanging off the bed, and she was face down, and there was blood on the pillow, and there was blood on the blanket, and she was covered by the comforter, and she had also had gunshot wounds to the head. So they were both deceased, los dos.
Unfortunately.
Yes. Investigators also noticed that there wasn't a sign of a struggle, like in the bedroom.
Yeah, like for your 16-year-old kid, I know that they don't pay attention. I know that. But for him to go, like, I know. Because I have a niece that's 16 and she doesn't pay attention to shit. But I'm just saying, like...
And they're just in the room.
They're just in their room. They come out y pues está todo callado. ¿Qué onda aquí?
Yeah.
Bajas y pues nada más te metes. Pero para que él no se dé cuenta de nada, desde donde sales de tu cuarto hasta adentro y hasta que... I mean, to the point where he has to pull down the blanket to see that, that must have been like nothing moved.
Yeah.
Like there must... Like in my mind, that's how I see it. Like todo nada más puesto como like...
It's supposed to be.
Supposed to be, yeah. Mm-hmm. Now, but for someone to get shot in the head, I know a little bit about, you know, with these cases that we review and we, you know, research, que there must have been blood somewhere, no?
So, like I just said, there wasn't a sign of struggle in the bedroom. And it literally, the fact that they were covered with the comforter, it looked like they were just sleeping. That's what Devon thought. So later, an autopsy revealed that Bill was shot 5 times.
Su puta madre.
And Sue was shot 3 times.
Damn. In the head?
Yeah.
All in the head?
Mm-hmm. In the, like, the face area. Yeah. Now, Sue did have a defensive wound in her hand because one of the shots was to her hand. And there was blood spatter on the walls and on the bed sheets. This led investigators to believe that the shooter must have literally just opened the door and shot Bill as he was standing by the door, the shooter.
Because he was... Okay, so then basically what you're saying is the person who shot was at the door.
And based on the blood splatter.
They were asleep.
Yes.
Oh, okay, okay. Uh-huh.
So as the house continued to get searched, investigators obviously made their way upstairs and found a locked door. I'm sorry, I just gotta say no more locked doors because we said that on the last episode. So they had to force it open, and it was another bedroom. So they found a young man with wounds to the head, también on a bed.
Who is that?
And his head and skull were cracked open, and he was also deceased.
The fuck?
And this was Derek.
Oh.
So while Bill and Sue had gunshot wounds, Derek did not. And it was immediately believed that he had been killed with like a hammer. Like a hammer-like weapon.
Pero the door was locked.
Right. So Derek appeared to have been killed while he was sleeping también. And he, again, the pictures show he was lying on his side and he was facing the wall because his bed también was up against the wall. And he had no defensive wounds at all whatsoever. Quickly, investigators concluded that Derek was killed first because whoever committed the murders used a hammer to not alert anybody else in the house. He killed Derek, locked the door, left the bedroom, and then made their way downstairs to Bill and Sue's room. I
don't know why that just doesn't make sense to me. Like, why would you do that? Like, I get what you're saying, like, que porque no quería despertar a los demás, you know, I get that. But I mean, like, you imagine, like, if it would have been a lot harder if he would have killed Derek and Derek would have, like, made noise. Mm-hmm. And, like, I don't know. I guess it just didn't make sense to me.
As I just mentioned, Bill was just shot first, which the sound must have woken up Sue. And she must have moved or she was made aware, which is why her feet were hanging off the bed. And she was found with the wound on her hand because como que she moved. Maybe she was already sleeping in her stomach and she heard a noise and maybe she was going to, you know, and she saw, you know, what happened to Bill. And then she saw the shooter. Now, there were no spent shell casings in the bedroom. So the killer took time to pick them up and clean up the crime scene a little bit, cover them both with a comforter, and close the door as he left because the door estaba cerrada when Devon went in there. Mm-hmm. So he did that just like he did it in Derek's bedroom también. Obviously, investigators were like perplexed. There was no sign of a forced entry into the home. Nothing was missing. There wasn't a mess. Nothing was stolen. And They didn't understand who could have done this to the Liske family, who were very well known by their small community. And actually, one of the detectives, Detective George Blington, I think, who got the call, he knew the family. He went on to say que el papá de Sue was actually like his school teacher, so everybody knew each other. Even the detective knew the fucking family. Investigators, of course, spoke to Mark and Michelle Grado, which were the neighbors. And Michelle stated that she heard a sound that sounded like banging or gunshots at around 6:30 that morning.
Pero, they have 100 acres.
Truly.
So, like, the neighbors could have been, they could have been so far you can barely hear anything. But for them to actually hear,
there was a couple of feet. There were, their houses were close to, I think it's like a couple yards.
Okay,
yeah.
Cool.
So it wasn't, they weren't, I guess their main houses weren't that far, but they just lived on a big piece of land. Pero, so Michelle said that she heard him at 6:30 that morning. But inside the home, there was no evidence pointing towards anybody. So they were like, okay, let's start at the very beginning. Who made the discovery of the bodies? Devon. Not only, he was the only survivor, but he was also in the home playing hours of video games while the rest of his family were lying dead in their beds. When investigators spoke to Devon, he tells them that, what I already mentioned at the very beginning. He said that he was at his dad's house the night before, which was confirmed by his dad, Gary. Gary's like, yeah, he was here with me. This is what he did. And then he just played video games for hours. En la noche y se durmió tarde. Again, Devon said, hey, I made it back at home by this time at around 10 to change his clothes because he had that church concert. And he said nothing seemed out of the ordinary when I made it home. And then he went to church. He did his little choir concert, got back home at around 11:15, went straight up to his bedroom, played video games until he got the call from his Aunt Lori. And then people did confirm seeing him at church and all that stuff. So he was where he said that he had been. Devon's timeline, too, also doesn't place him in the Liske family when Michelle, the neighbor, said that she had heard the banging
that's what I was going to say. It
sounds.
was 6:30. He wasn't there.
Yeah. As quickly as Devon was thought of to have possibly, been maybe a person of interest, that thought it was, as easily dismissed. When they, spoke to him, he generally seemed out of it. He was in shock and he just looked distraught. And he went on to say at first that when he made the discovery, he said that he thought he was like, the first thing that popped into my mind, he was like, this has to be a Halloween prank. Because it was Halloween.
Oh, okay.
So he was like, initially, that's what I thought. She was like, what I'm seeing can't be real. So now the property had to be searched.
Yeah.
Which was going to be a feat in and of itself. It was fucking 99 acres. And on the acres, they had the whole pole barn thingy. They had other hunting type casitas on the property. There was also a pond behind the house that was the size of an acre and a half.
Ah, ta madre, ¿te imaginas? No, hombre, esta pobre gente.
And they actually ended up finding muddy footprints that led to the deck of the pond. So the muddy footprints went to the end of the deck and then back out. So they were like, okay, why would you walk to the end of the deck? Were you trying to get rid of a weapon or something? Right? It was possible. They decided to drain the pond, but they didn't find anything. They didn't find a gun and no other type of weapon, maybe a hammer-like weapon. But while the pond didn't turn up anything, speaking to Devon did. Devon told investigators that when he got home from his dad's to change his clothes, he saw someone else there.
Huh?
BJ.
Ah.
His stepbrother. They had bumped into each other, and BJ had asked Devon what he was doing at the house since he was supposed to be at his dad's the whole weekend. And Devon le dijo, hey, he was like, oh, I'm just here because I have to have church choir. I'm going to change my clothes and I'm going to go over there. And BJ was like, oh, okay. He was like, how long are you going to take? Pues Devon le explicó y le contestó, right? Whatever he was going to do. So Devon told investigators that he and BJ didn't really talk. They weren't communicate, no se
llevan bien, pues.
No que no se llevaban bien, but BJ was just socially awkward. He was like, he didn't speak much and he didn't speak much to me. And he was never talkative to anyone in the first place. But when they bumped into each other, he was being more talkative than any other fucking time. So
le hizo raro.
Se le hizo
like,
raro. Yeah, he was
what
like,
the
why are you
hell?
asking me all these questions, you know? I think before, maybe they would have just crossed paths and like hi and bye and that's it, you know? According to Devon, BJ was, cuando lo vio, BJ estaba at Bill's truck, which was a Ford F-150, and he was loading either things into the truck or out of the truck, which was nothing weird about that, you know? They used to hunt and
They
shit.
hunted, so yeah. Uh-huh.
So by the time he made it back from his church choir, BJ was gone and so was the truck. Attention now shifted to BJ because he might have been in the home right after Michelle heard the banging sounds or the shooting sounds.
Yeah.
And they needed to speak to BJ, and they tried calling him and they were not able to reach him. And it actually looked like his phone had been turned off.
Oh, okay.
So BJ, la mamá de BJ y su tía, Susan, lived in Oregon, Ohio, not the state, which was about 15 minutes from the Liske home. And maybe they thought that maybe he was over there. Maybe he's with his mom.
At this point, they want to talk to him and see
Right.
what he saw or heard or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. The police were sent to the area to see if they could locate him, but they were not able to locate him por donde vivía su mom. At the same time, they learned about that hunting cabin that the family had about a couple of hours away, which was actually in Carroll County. So they were like, okay, we need to get to Carroll County and check out this
he's
cabin.
there. You never know.
At the same time, investigators were still learning information from Mark and Michelle, the neighbors. And they were told that the Liske family had some issues within its family members. And they were mostly between Sue and BJ. And they had begun over 10 years ago
Oh.
when she, Derek, and Devon moved into the home. Into the home.
Not the hum.
The home. I was going to say house, home, hum.
Hum.
Mm-hmm.
Jamón, okay.
Am I hungry?
Are you hungry? Maybe huevito con jamón.
So it seemed that before they had moved in, and it was just BJ and his dad, BJ could do whatever he wanted.
Ah.
Right? So
Yeah.
let's say by this point, BJ was 10 years ago, so he must have been, like 13, 14, at he was, a teenager. He had free reign of the house when his dad would go to work in the morning. And I don't think I think sometimes he would like skip school and stuff. So cuando Sue moved in, she set some ground rules. And one of them was, you're going to go to school.
No shit.
Yeah.
You need an education, buddy.
Yeah.
You need to go to school every day. Míralo. How about that?
Yeah. And it looked like that's where their issues began. Like that's when they originated, when they moved in.
For some reason, like, I don't know why at some age kids think that they don't have to go to school anymore. Like, bruh, you have to go to school. Like,
please.
Like, it's like you're making them get an education. Like, you're making them a fuerza. Like,
Yeah.
no, you don't understand that you need this, blah, blah, blah. But they don't care. They're like, you're making me go to school. Like, it's my fault.
Yeah, they think they
Like,
know.
bro.
Whatever you want to do after high school,
That's up to you.
It's up to
but
you.
my job as your parent is to make sure that you make it to school. Like, at least, and not take
Don't
my
you
ass to
get
court.
fined or as a parent
you
get fined?
Yeah. Like, bro, I get it. Y si ya no quieres ir, I get that. Pero, like,
if you want to get your GED or something,
100% agree. But if I'm making you go to school and you're like my son that's 80 and he's like, why are you making me go? I'm not. You don't understand. You have a privilege of going to school.
But then he's also 8. But yeah, when you're 14, 15, you're like,
Pero a lo mejor como él ya estaba acostumbrado a que su papá no le decía nada, like, oh, you can stay or whatever, or he would just do whatever he wanted. So then this lady comes in and is like, who the fuck do you think you are telling me what to do,
Yeah.
I get that too. But it's just mind-boggling to me how kids are like, you want me to go to school? Like,
and it's
no
so weird.
shit.
Sometimes también it's like you don't realize things when you're that young until you're older. You're like, what the fuck was I? What was I being that way?
Yeah, like just go to school and stop giving your mom a hard time.
Please.
Like stop.
Yeah.
Or barking at when the teacher is talking. Yeah.
So investigators find that BJ had a case file.
Oh, he did.
And in it, some of the reports were domestic violence reports.
A la madre.
BJ and Sue had gotten into some altercations. In 2004, BJ was charged with underage drinking, domestic violence, unauthorized use of a motor vehicle, and leaving the scene.
Wait, what? In 2002?
2004.
So, ¿cuántos años tenía?
So he must have been like 18, 17, por ahí.
Oh, sí,
Yeah. He took his stepbrother's pickup truck, so I'm assuming Derek's, because they were like a year apart, and he crashed it while he was drinking. He then, after leaving that scene, went back home, se peleó con Sue, and then he ran away from the scene cuando llegó la policía. That same year, according to The Blade, it was a newspaper in Toledo, Ohio, BJ was charged with felonious assault and robbery. He hit Sue with a coffee cup mug and stole her car keys. And then he was then ordered to stay away from her. And he pleaded not guilty to those charges by reason of insanity. And they were dropped in October of 2005.
Insanity.
In that case file también, there was a report from 2006 from the Ottawa County Probate Court where an investigator wrote that BJ suffered from schizoaffective disorder.
Okay.
He was declared incompetent and his dad, Bill, became his legal guardian. I think he was 20 at the time. And the investigator also mentioned that in the report that Bill and BJ, ellos dos, they had a good father-son relationship. But the relationship with his stepmom, it was the one that was strained. And he couldn't live with the family in the home. So I think this is when he hit Sue that he couldn't be in the home. He was ordered to stay away from her, so he couldn't live in the house.
And I give Sue a lot of props because it's not easy to be a stepmom. And I'm pretty sure she was probably like, I'm done with this, but she was trying because she wanted to be with Bill.
And then I think it's hard when it's with somebody that has a mental illness.
¿Te
Yeah.
imaginas? No, que pobrecita.
So Dr. Doug Smith, who is at the time was a medical director for a state operated psychiatric hospital, he had to say, I'm going to quote, he said this about BJ's mental illness and people like him who suffer from it. He said, quote, their brains produce all types of things that don't exist and that they misinterpret clues from others and may have delusions and hallucinations.
Mm-hmm. So maybe Sue wasn't even trying to.
But he was just reading things, like making him go to school.
To him, that was...
Maybe he was seeing it as, you're just trying to tell me what to do. But like you said, I'm just doing it for your own good, Pero así no lo ven. I don't know. That's what I think.
I don't know. Okay.
Yeah.
We're not professional.
Yeah. This is just what I'm gathering. From yeah. So BJ's illness could be controlled if he took medication. And he actually did take it. And when he took it, he was good. Like everything was good. But then he'd start to feel, he was like, oh, okay, I'm doing fine. I don't need to take it anymore. Oh. Yeah. And then he would stop taking his medication and then he'd drink and then he'd smoke pot. And then, it would his
one
illness
thing would lead to another and it would just explode.
And his illness would just be amplified while not being on medication.
Wow.
And the problems would start back up. Now, according to Mark, Bill had a hard time controlling BJ sometimes, especially when he wasn't taking his medication. And he went on to say that he was called over sometimes to the house when BJ was being combative. And like I said earlier at the very beginning, Mark and BJ had a good relationship. Y cuando Mark would get called into the house, his presence would calm BJ some. So por eso le hablaban a Mark. It was after an altercation with Sue, which is the 6 years prior that I mentioned, that BJ was kicked out of the family home and he was sent to live in a group home in Sandusky, which was a little over a half hour away from Oak Harbor. BJ was not allowed to live in the home, but he was allowed to stay sometimes. So es cuando su dad, Bill, lo recogía from the group home
como quien dice.
Every other weekend. Mm-hmm. But then he would go drive him back on Sundays. Investigators obviously learned all of this information and think that obviously BJ's resentment must have grown over all these years. He's thinking they don't want him in the house, so he's taking it as something else that it isn't. Mm-hmm. And what could have added to that was that Derek had gotten into some trouble with the police a few months prior. And I believe it was during the summer of that year of 2010. I'm not sure what happened, to be honest. But Derek didn't get kicked out of the house.
Ah.
And BJ was like, okay, I get kicked out, but he doesn't.
Yeah, but you beat your stepmom, bro.
Right.
You hit her with the coffee mug.
But we think rationally.
Yeah, but he didn't. Because he probably was not on his medication.
Right. This obviously added to whatever issues the family had. But there was also something that happened that summer. It caused a family fight. Or between Bill and BJ. In June, Bill filed a report with the police where he stated that BJ had punched him twice and had knocked him down. And then he just walked away into a marsh And Bill made the report, and he said that he didn't want to press charges and that he just wished his son would take his medication.
Oh, so sad.
And it said that summer, BJ was actually really, really upset at his dad, which wasn't the norm because they had a good relationship. As Mark was speaking to investigators and told them all that he knew, he also told them that even though the family had their issues, the night before, remember, todos estaban jangueando right there at the pole barn. Everyone was having a good time. Like, everybody was in good spirits. There was no, like, bad vibes or anything like that.
No, but you need to understand, with people with mental illness like that,
you just never know.
You just never know. It'll
be good one moment.
In like 2.5 seconds.
In a blink of an eye.
Yeah, straight up.
Truly. With all the information gathered, they reached out to Carroll County Sheriff's Office and asked for help to locate BJ at the cabin, because that's where different county was where the cabin was at. And they told them that it was a possible murder suspect and that he may be armed and dangerous. So the next day, on November 1st, Deputy Mike Belash, I think that's how you say his last name, made his way to the cabin. And as he arrived, he spotted the F-150 truck de Bill. Y cuando llegó and he parked, BJ salió de la cabin. So Deputy Mike exited his vehicle and drew his gun and told BJ to get on the ground. And he was able to hold him hasta que llegara backup. So he said that BJ was calm. He didn't put up a fight, and he was read his Miranda rights. And then they asked him how long he had been there, and he said 3 hours. Luego, he said that that's all pretty much that they could get from him. He didn't want to answer any other questions, and he didn't want to talk anymore. BJ's shoes had what looked like brown and red stains, and one of his socks had just straight up red stains. He was, of course, taken into custody, and as he was removed from the property, officers searched the cabin and looked for a murder weapon, a gun, or a hammer-like object. But nothing was found in the cabin. Remember, he had Bill's truck. There was blood on the inside of the truck and on the outside of the truck. And after it was processed, a .22 caliber gun was found in the cab of the truck, and it was under Bill's name, and it was consistent with the shotgun wounds that Bill had and that Sue had. So one of the murder weapons was found. They had the gun, but they needed to find the blunt force trauma object. And at the Liske home, it was still being searched también from top to bottom. And finally, a hammer was found, and it was hidden. And I was like, damn, how'd you guys find it? ¿Cómo lo fue a meter hasta allá? But that's why we're not detectives.
And that is also why we're not killers.
Yeah.
We've established that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So the Liske family, they had a second living room. It was in the back of the home. And in the second living room, there was a closet. Well, inside that closet, there was a safe. And when the safe was pulled out, se cayó el hammer that was wedged between the safe and the wall.
Wow.
And it was a bloody hammer that fell to the floor. So BJ was charged with 6 counts of aggravated murder, and investigators were confident that the person who had killed the Liske family, or the 3 members of the Liske family, was finally in custody. But tragedy would strike the Liske family again the very next day after the Halloween murders.
Why?
On November 1st, Susan Dunmeyer, or Susie as she was referred to, which was Bill's sister and BJ's aunt, the one that lived in Oregon, died in a fire. Susie had a close relationship with BJ, and she did a lot for him, and it was said that she was like his second mom. They were really close. So the Liske family, I mean, you just lost 3 of your family members in one day, brutally, and then another family member dies in a fire the very next day. When investigators first heard of the news, it crossed their minds that maybe things were not over. And maybe somebody was going after members of the Liske family. Maybe all 4 deaths were connected somehow. But who could have done it? Because it wasn't BJ. He was already in custody when Susie died. So they were even thinking that they could have possibly had the wrong person in custody.
Yeah, because he wasn't talking.
Right. Maybe he had an accomplice.
Yeah.
Initially, the reason for the fire was unknown, but after an investigation, it was determined that the fire was accidental, and it started with the cigarette that wasn't put out properly. There was no indication that
you can prevent forest fires. Put out your cigarettes.
There was no indication that someone else was involved. It is believed that Susie left the gas on. I don't know what type of gas. I don't know if the gas tank was in the garage. Quién sabe. But
maybe cuando prendes la estufa, you know, that happens before it goes click, 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 you know?
And she went outside to smoke a cigarette in her garage. And when she was done, I guess she didn't put it out properly, which caused an explosion. And Devon went on to say she was really good about putting out cigarettes. I'm pretty sure she was like, her mind was just
because there's so much going on. Yeah.
Her brother had just, and her sister-in-law, you know, her nephew BJ también. I mean, sorry, Derek. You know, she's probably so distraught she wasn't thinking properly, and she didn't turn out the cigarette. Pero I mean, and then which caused the explosion, which she died in. It's crazy.
That is so crazy.
Now, BJ's attorneys, Adrian Zimmerman and John Debbies, I think that's how you say his last name, pleaded not guilty for BJ. And he was also scheduled to undergo a psychiatric evaluation at the Ottawa County Detention Facility. As the case against BJ was starting to be built, they were very confident because there was a lot of DNA evidence that linked BJ to the crime. When he was found, the clothes that he was wearing actually ended up having all three of the Liske family members' DNA. So I believe it was on his boxer shorts and his socks, his shoes. On March 19th of 20, so they were going to go to trial, and he was up against the death penalty. BJ was. On March 19th of 2011, BJ was he was obviously incarcerated, and he was talking to his mom on the phone, Barbara.
Not the Barbara. Not the Barbara.
And while they were speaking on the phone, she read him a newspaper article about the murders. And she asked him, she was like, you did it? You did all this stuff? And he said, yes. And then he said, I wasn't in my right mind. So after that call with his mom, which was like 5 months later after the murder.
1, 2, 3.
After that call, I don't know what happened exactly or what else they talked about, but after that call that he had with his mom, Barbara, he ended up changing his plea to guilty. And he pleaded guilty to 3 counts of aggravated murder. And like I just said, if he hadn't taken the plea, he would have gone to trial and possibly be sentenced to death.
She was probably like, you did this, just say what happened or something.
And then también,
because, you know, Barbara's, we're wise.
Yeah, and then you're gonna, how do I say this that I'm trying to say? You avoid the rest of the families going through trial.
Going through all of that and seeing all the pictures, sitting, you know,
hearing
that's like,
testimony.
Yeah.
Like you spare the rest of the family all that heartache. And he was sentenced on November 9th of 2011 to 3 life sentences without the possibility of parole. So this is what's believed that happened that night, or esa madrugada. They were all hanging out at the pole barn, con Mark, and BJ was probably drinking. And when they got together ended and everybody went home, se pelearon for some reason. BJ became very angry and very violent. And after everybody went to bed, él se quedó despierto into the wee hours of the morning. He went and killed Derek first. He locked the door and closed it. And then he left the room. And then he left the upstairs. And then he made his way downstairs to Bill and Sue's room. And that's where he shot them. And it is believed that it was when he was cleaning up the crime scene cuando llegó Devon. Yeah, that's why he was haciéndole esas preguntas.
But I mean, if he wasn't in his right mind, how did he know he needed to clean up?
I mean, I think you know the basic stuff. You're probably just not thinking critically, you know?
I get that.
But you know, to pick up, to lock a door and stuff like that,
you know? But he picked up the shell casings, he cleaned up, he
covered them up. But because he felt guilt.
Yeah, but then he put the hammer in the safe somewhere where, you know, people were going to have a hard time finding it.
He knew to make sure to get Devon, ask him, wait, how long are you going to be here?
You know, he took his dad's truck, se la llevó. Like,
he went to the cabin.
He probably did walk over to the marsh like he usually did when he was mad.
He did his, actually, I don't know what the fuck he did there. They don't know what the fuck he did at the pond, but it was his footprints that were on that deck. I don't know if maybe he thought about throwing something in there, but he changed his mind at the end.
Yeah, I mean, it could have been a lot of things. So, I mean, it's like, if you're not in your right mind, maybe at one point he snapped out of it.
Because that happens.
That happens because you do. That's a mood change. Like you go through these changes. So maybe at one point he's like, oh shit, what I do now? I have to fix it,
or try to cover it up.
Or try to cover it up, but he didn't really go that far.
Yeah, I mean,
like I don't know.
He wasn't a mastermind.
He wasn't obviously.
Now, on March 31st of 2015, BJ was found dead.
Oh, of course he was.
Of a self-inflicted wound in his cell at the Ross Correctional Institute. He was 29. I don't know. It just says self-inflicted wound. I don't know if it was shotgun wound. I don't know. But they said that they were going to do an investigation.
You can't do a shotgun.
So do you think he stabbed himself?
You cannot do a gunshot wound at jail.
I mean, you would know it's a shotgun wound, right? Instead of but
a gunshot. We said it wrong.
Anyways, what is a self-inflicted wound? Like you stab yourself?
Like a stab, or maybe se cortó, or he probably cut his neck, or he could have also. I don't think he hung himself, but there was a wound, so it's not a hanging. So he probably just cut his neck or
something,
with the toothbrush that they make. Shanks.
Mm-hmm. Now, Devon, obviously, this was in 2010. Devon's older now, but he actually ended up getting married at the farm.
Oh.
And he said that he grew up there, and he loved it there. And he said that he didn't want what happened in one day ruin the place that he grew up in and loved. And he had a son, and obviously they have I won't say a stone, but not like a headstone, but like a memorial kind of thing. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And there's pictures of his son up against the memorial, and then he named his son Derek.
Oh.
Yeah, like his brother. Dude, and he's such a good person, because he was on to say, he was like, BJ wasn't a bad person. He said we just couldn't get him the help that he needed.
Wow, that's crazy. That is so crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And I wonder if he realized that it was Halloween.
Do you think it was just an eerie coincidence?
I think it was just...
that it just happened.
Eerie.
Like on the lake.
Because I don't think he
waited for it to be...
he was like, oh, we're having good... I think that they were just having a good time, like you said. Y luego, de repente, something came over him, and he just killed him. Like, I really don't think that... I think it was just a coincidence que era el 31,
and he was drinking.
He was drinking, and, he was just out there.
Se agarraron de la greña. When they got home, maybe he got into a little argument.
You never know. They could have gotten in, or maybe he brought up something that pissed him off.
Maybe the whole Derek thing, be like, well, he's still here. Like, and I wonder if Devon had been there, si lo hubiera matado también.
A lo mejor sí.
Because I know Devon would stay the weekends with his dad, but let's take it for whatever reason, su dad no hubiera podido tenerlo esa weekend, and he would have stayed, and he killed everybody that was in the home. And Devon just was not in the home.
Yeah.
But I think he would have killed them too. You think?
Yeah, I think he would have. I'm for sure. He had to kill. In that rage, he probably was just going to kill whoever was there, But...
And then Devon's room was upstairs también.
Mm-hmm. Sí lo hubiera matado, I think so. Pero I just feel like maybe it was just a coincidence that it was on the
Halloween. 31st. It didn't mean anything. It's not like he was like, oh, I'm going to wait till Halloween.
Yeah, so I can do it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's another day, so I guess he was just like...
It just happened to be on Halloween.
That's crazy.
And that's the case of the Liske family murders.
That is just something that you just never know. It can happen to anybody.
Yeah.
To be honest.
Mental
illness is real.
Yeah.
And
and it's hard.
And there's people out there just like that person that says, oh, I'm going to take my medication for this long and I feel better and I'm not taking it anymore. So
like people do that with antibiotics.
You're supposed to finish the course, because then whatever illness is going to come back if you don't finish it. And nobody ever finishes courses of antibiotics.
I do.
Well, I mean, maybe like 20% of the population.
Whatever my doctor tells me, I'm like, girl, I got you. Yes, I will do it.
Yeah, to make me feel better.
I will take whatever you tell me.
Yeah, but I understand that, and you know what? That's really
hard.
unfortunate.
I know,
it's unfortunate.
Yeah.
And let us know what you think about our episode this week. Thank you so much for the followers. We are almost to 160 followers on Instagram. Calmate, 160. And we appreciate everybody's support. If you would like to follow us on Instagram, our Instagram is at
Cafecito and Crime Pod. And if you would like to rate us, download our episodes. I was going to say subscribe, but I don't think that's the right platform that we're talking about.
Calmate, welcome to my channel.
Rate us, download our episodes, share the podcast. We'd really appreciate it. And we hope you guys have a good It's So Pretty Outside day.
Oh my God.
Bye.
Bye.